Welcome back. We're discussing a bill passed by the US House of Representatives that would severely punish Arab television stations that broadcast so-called anti-American views or incitement. With me today are Lawrence Pintak, the Dean of the College of Communication at Washington State University, from where he joins us, and Khady Abaza, a Senior Fellow at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies, based here in Washington, D.C. We get straight back to a call from Abdul in Maryland. Maryland, on the line. Go ahead, please, Abdul.
Yes, how you doing?
Good, thanks.
I'm calling because the United States do not want the media to show its evil, dark side of the United States. It has done so much wrong, and when it is shown, it makes them look like they are evil. And the United States do evil things.
Okay, you know, let me put this to Larry Pintak. It's not really as simple as that, though, is it? It's not just about portrayal of the U.S. It's a much deeper issue here in deciding what is acceptable and what isn't.
This is a terribly complicated issue. Clearly we have laws in America that give you freedom of speech, but you're not allowed to shout fire in a crowded cinema. And so where are these lines? The problem is the perception. The perception that America, on one hand, says no censorship of the media. President Obama says in his State of the Union address, America is judged by its ideals abroad. And yet, at the same time, we do things like profess democracy, then refuse to talk to Hamas or the Muslim Brotherhood when they're elected. And we take other actions that are perceived as being hypocritical. And this fits right into that category. And
I was going to say, Larry, doesn't it contradict what President Obama came in with, on his election of reaching out, engaging, being much more a part of the international community?
Absolutely. Clearly he's not trying to engage with Al-Aqsa television, but he is engaging with the international community, as you say. And there are a lot of nasty people around the world who say a lot of nasty things about the U.S. So if we shut these guys down, if it were even practical, where do we stop? And, of course, then there's the Internet. We can't stop that flow of information on the Internet.
Mm-hmm. We've got a question here that came in from a viewer by the name of Ansar Bakshi. And Khady, if I could put this to you, please. He wrote into our Facebook page saying, they are essentially trying to rein in any channel that makes legitimate criticism of U.S. foreign policy, which they are misleadingly regard, or which they misleadingly regard as anti-American incitement. This bill is draconian, primitive, and inexcusably violates media freedom and the freedom of speech. Now, of course, you pointed out it's only the early stages. It still has to go through a number of processes. Is it something the Senate would pass? Is it something President Obama would sign? What prospect, if the bill was to go any further, what prospect is there of fighting it?
Well, the first thing, I think if these TV channels change a little bit their behavior, I think this would be already a step forward against this law. If they stop promoting violence against civilians and terrorist acts, I think that this would change the situation and there would be a much weaker case to stop and prevent these TV channels. Plus, we are in a TV station, for instance, Al Jazeera, there are many people who come and are very critical to US policy, and it's not on the list, so it's not a matter of just being critical to the United States. I think there is a need to more proof that this TV station could be dangerous, whereas it's not the case. Nobody's calling here for people to blow themselves in the middle of civilians.
Interesting point, Larry Pintak, if I could put this to you. I mean, what this bill, if it did go any further, could it mean that, for example, a channel like CNN or any of the American channels could be punished for conducting an interview with the Hamas leader Khalid Mishal in Damascus, for example?
Well, as I read the bill now, no, but that certainly is the potential. This bill now, as it's structured, is specifically aimed at the satellite providers, not to get too technical, but those companies that feed the signal, not the channels themselves. So in that case, it wouldn't be, but clearly you open up the door. What is terrorism? What is incitement to violence? And if CNN or CBS interviews someone who does profess violence, are they then at risk?
Let me ask a couple of questions that we got on the from our viewers to you, Khady, that came in. I'll put a couple of them back to back here. First one's from Nairobi in Kenya, and Abdulaziz Billo wrote in saying, America should stop dictating the terms Arab media should uphold. Arab media are showing the world what is actually happening. The US doesn't want the world to see the injustices and atrocities being committed by the troops in Arab states. The second one, similar theme as well here from Canada, Ottawa, where Nazib Baluch wrote in saying, the US has always campaigned for more freedom in journalism and the right to express views. If the bill gets passed, wouldn't it just kill the whole point of having that freedom? Also, why is it that only Arab media is being targeted when there are plenty of non-Arabic channels with similar anti-American views? Now, and I wonder actually, why is it that Congress has specifically targeted the Arab world, not any of those channels in say, Europe or Africa, Asia and so on?
Because I think that there is a lot of attention given now to the Muslim world and the Arab world. And the Arab world and the Muslim world are perceived are the #1 producers of terrorists or of people who hate America, even if it's not really a hate of America, it's hate of American politics, in fact. But the issue here is, I mean, it would be very difficult to not address these obvious cases of call for violence against civilians. But of course the bill will be much stronger if there are other television outlets included or other satellite providers included. And this may come, it may be an opportunity also for those who attack Muslims and Arabs to try and raise awareness and lobby and to include more TV stations.
Let me follow up quickly with you then with an email that came in via Facebook on this subject from Ibn Qayyim al-Jawzi, who wrote in saying, Fox News Channel and CNN for many years have been talking badly about Muslims in Arab countries, yet the American government considers that to be freedom of speech.
Well, sometimes it's easier to criticize Arabs and Muslims than other nationalities, and depending on the time and place, but nowadays this is what's happening. Again, we go back to the issue of what's the homework being done by the Muslims and Arabs to raise their awareness about their issues and to shed the light on things that are considered offensive to Muslims and that are incitement for hatred. So I think that there is
different degree.
Exactly, different degree.
Mohammed in Mozambique, good to have you on the phone from Mozambique. What would you like to ask, please?
Hi, Riz.
Hi. Good, Walaikum Salam. How are you?
Fine, thank you. My question is simple like that. Are we watching the hand of the era when America was imposing the democracy to the world?
Okay, Larry Pintack, is America basically dictating democracy to the world? And a little follow-up from me, why has this issue not been so covered in the American media?
Well, I think America gave up trying to dictate democracy to the world after the failed Bush administration effort at imposing democracy that quickly turned against American interests. So I think we've abandoned that. Why is it not getting coverage in the U.S. media? I think it's because there isn't much interest at the end of the day in what goes on in the Arab media, because there is this perception of the Arab media as a monolith, as a negative monolith. And certainly some of the callers talking about Arab media in general, we need to separate out, at the risk of sounding like I'm kissing up, you need to separate out the Al Jazeeras, the Al Arabiyas, the scores of channels that are legitimate news organizations from these nasty channels. But I also have to come back to something Mr. Obaza said, because he showed us exactly the danger of this bill. He said, maybe there is the opportunity to expand this list and bring in other channels around the world that are also perceived as being anti-American. And that is the problem.
Well, Larry Pintack and Katie Obaza, thank you very much. We're out of time, but thanks for that debate.
Thank you.
Thank you for being with us too. Now remember, you can watch a podcast of the show on iTunes. This week we're featuring a debate on the alleged Mossad assassination of a top Hamas official in Dubai. On the next show, the price of peace in Chechnya. Human rights groups blame the region's pro-Moscow leader, Ramzan Kadyrov, of suppressing dissent through torture and murder. Critics say this could fan the flames of Islamic extremism. Is Chechnya lurching towards another crisis, and could this threaten Russia's stability? Tune in from that. Me and the team will see you next time.